The President of the United States appointed Kelly Shackelford to serve on the brand new Religious Liberty Commission. I'm Stuart Shepard, and this is First Liberty Live. Thank you for liking and sharing our videos. Just look for the little thumbs up down there. Give that a click or a heart or whatever you might see on your screen, depending on where you're watching this. Thank you in advance from us. That helps it get the word out to others so that they also can watch these videos that you like to watch. Kelly Shackelford is First Liberty's President, CEO, and Chief Counsel. And he's in the middle of an incredibly busy month, so he's joining us by Zoom today. Hi, Kelly.
Hey, Stuart.
I've got a picture in the big TV here of you at the White House just yesterday with President Trump and a bunch of other notables. Set the scene for us. What was it like being there?
Well, I mean, just to be in the Rose Garden itself is always such an honor. As President Trump himself said, it's one of the most special places anywhere in the country. I'd say this too, it was hot, to sit in a suit and tie right up front in 80-degree heat with no cloud cover. I've got a little burn.
A little sunburn out of the deal.
Yeah, it was warm, but and we were there a long time because the president's usually late. He was meeting about the big beautiful bill, and he came out to the Rose Garden, the National Day of Prayer ceremony, a little late. So it was a long time, and but it's just special walking through the White House, walking through the beautiful landscape there, the Rose Garden, and to see that whole wall of media in the back. And I mean, I don't sit next to Caroline Leavitt very often, but that's who, the spokesperson for the White House. And yeah. I mean, everybody came through. Mike Johnson came through, the Speaker of the House, Pam Bondi. I mean, all of them were sitting there really close. So that's just surreal to have all those kinds of people in the same place. It just gives a little attention to the fact that this is pretty special, what the president did.
There's so much history that's happened there in the Rose Garden. Even just looking at the White House itself, I think about the fact Abraham Lincoln lived in that house. I mean, that's how long that's been around, and it's just such a scene of so much history. Explain for us what the Religious Liberty Commission will do. What is this thing that you've been named to?
Well, we have had an International Religious Liberty Commission, and they try to promote religious freedom around the world. But we've never had a presidential commission on religious liberty for the United States. And, I know a lot of people saw that there was a beginning of this with the task force, the anti-Christian bias task force that the president put in place. But that was all elected officials. That was, the head of the DOJ, the Attorney General, the head of the Veterans Affairs. It was all like cabinet level people. They're obviously not going to be meeting and pulling things together. So he really wanted a real commission that would have hearings and get information, gather not only the attacks and the way government was misused the last 4 years in a number of circumstances, from people being put in jail for praying, outside of abortion clinics. I mean, we have all kinds of examples of abuse, but really to go back to our founding and talk about and learn. So we're going to call experts, people on what did the founders mean? What does it say? And then kind of go through our history to get to, okay, this is what religious freedom is supposed to be like in America. And then really began to cover areas, parental rights, what's happening right now. I just think most people don't know all the attacks on religious freedom that are going on right now. And as we bring these up, whether it's the military, whether it's school, whether it's, parental rights, whether it's healthcare, it's going on in a lot of different places. We're going to try to put those together, have witnesses to talk about what's happening. Yeah. And then at the end, when we've laid everything out, the goal for us is to make recommendations to the president on what can be done to shore up these freedoms for the future. So it's going to be, I think, fascinating. And I think, obviously, First Liberty's cases are right in the center of both the recent history of the major changes on religious freedom and a lot of these big areas that are being fought out right now.
And that's my next question. Hits that it's hard to overstate the importance of this, especially working here, because we see hundreds of these cases each year that we're working, dealing with religious freedom, regular people just living their lives, trying to live out their faith and being challenged. We've seen significant advances in the courts for religious liberty, but the culture is increasingly hostile toward religious liberty at the same time, and that's why this is so necessary. We've got to be able to find some balance there between our freedoms and living with a lot of people with a lot of different opinions about things in the same nation.
One of the things I say when I speak a lot is it doesn't even matter if you're a person of faith at all. You could be a total atheist. This is a really important freedom to you. Another way to put it, it's the freedom of conscience. It's about whether you can have your own beliefs, express your own beliefs, even if the government doesn't like them. And this is right at the cornerstone of all your freedoms. And so that is what we need Americans to understand. This is going to be a great opportunity to educate Americans on the fact that they should and they do have a stake in this, whether they realize it or not, and to get them to be advocates for it. And it's also, we've talked about this before, Stuart, but we have, take the Coach Kennedy case and the overturning of Lemon. Huge sea change. But almost everybody in the country at this point is still living 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And the last 50 years when you can't do these things. And so this is why we keep getting cases like, oh, teacher, you can't have a cross on your desk. Marisol Castro, right?
I was in her house and talked to her. I held the crucifix in my hands, but they told her, you can't be in a classroom if that's on your wall.
And nativity scenes at Christmas. Wait, you could do that? There's all these things, even that we've already won, that people don't know. And this will be a really major step in beginning to educate a lot of people about extra freedoms, religious freedoms for their community, in their area that they don't even realize that they've won because they're operating off of the past.
The executive order, I read through it, says this commission will run through July 4th of 2026. Could be extended by the president for a couple of years if he chooses to. That's a little over a year from now to that first deadline, and it's a lot of ground to cover. From where you sit, what are your priorities? What would you put at the top of your list that needs to be worked on first?
Well, really, to be honest, just as a matter of chronology, the first thing is we've got to get these hearings going, and we've got to think through, and that's one of the things I'm going to do. I was reached out to on this, but wasn't really allowed to say anything to anybody until it was official.
Right.
And so I haven't been able to even go to our colleagues at First Liberty and say, okay, let's brainstorm together all the biggest things that we need to make sure we don't miss. And we're going to do that. And the way I look at it, Stuart, is this is really an honor, but it's the Lord. Why should, it's just being on that committee is a gift from the Lord. And that means he has something for us to do. And I want to make sure we do what that is. I think our uniqueness on the committee, there are some brilliant people on the committee. There are people that have great sort of communication aspects all across the country. There are people that certainly, a lot more attractive than me. We have former Miss California, others. But, I think my unique position there is I've lived in this area for 36 years and nobody else has. And so I want to make sure we do a good job of sort of collecting all the things with an eye of somebody who kind of already can palm the basketball, already knows this area, and says, okay, what are the key areas we need to make sure we really develop and that we talk about solutions to. So we just want to do our work, but I think our work is kind of special in here. And so now that I'm free to talk about it, it's going to be great to be able to talk to the team and to get really a lot of creative thinking. And I'd encourage people to pray for us. This is a very unique opportunity. Never been a commission like this. I don't know if there ever will be again. So it really is historic. And we've got an opportunity to do some great things. And we just don't want to pass up that opportunity because a year and 2 months from now, it'll be over probably, and we'll be right about then. I guess we're ending right about it'll be the 250th year anniversary.
Yep.
Of the country. So what a great time! But by then, I think the president will want all this, so that as he's going into the midterms and all that all this is done, and it's not something that goes into elections and all those type of things.
You hinted at some of the other folks on the commission. I saw some familiar faces connected with it that you'll be working with. Let's start out with the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, right?
Dan Patrick is a great man. Dan's been a friend of mine for a long time. Well, I bet we've been friends for 30 years. And he's been one of those few political guys that is never gonna veer away from his faith, even if he's supposed to in politics.
Yeah.
He says what he needs. I thought his comment at when the president impromptu asked him to come up and say a few words, so he wasn't planning it. I thought it was a great comment. That people always talk about, you don't need to have the government come between a woman or a man and their doctor. He said, what you really don't need is the government to come between God and people who are seeking him. And that's exactly what the founders were. That's exactly the intent of the founders. And it was a good statement, because that's what we're fighting for. Religious freedom means that we don't want the government or these big, power, coalitions, whether it could be in business even, to tell people that they have to drop their faith. Our country was built upon that. It's crucial to our country. So love having Dan there. Plus
Name some other people that are on the commission with you real quick. I saw Ben Carson is one of the top level officials that is an ex officio, I think they call it on there. And who else will be sitting next to you?
Well, Ben Carson is the vice chair of the committee, and Ben's just a great guy and a person of faith. He's a perfect pick. Yeah. Obviously, he's been, in the cabinet of the Trump administration in the past. We also have Ryan Anderson, who is a top thinker.
Yep. Ethics and Public Policy Center, right?
That's right. And we have one of my friends, Allison Ho, who is one of the top attorneys and litigators in the country, argues at the U.S. Supreme Court.
She
awesome. Works at a major law firm, and she actually volunteers her time on religious liberty cases, have some big cases with us. Yeah. And then people like Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil is on the committee, yep. Which is great. He's a great communicator, has a big audience. He can certainly get the word out and knows what those people are thinking. So it's a and we also have Franklin Graham, obviously, probably considered the number one evangelical representative as far as a pastor. And then on the other side, not on the other side, same side, but we have Cardinal Dolan, Archbishop, who, so you got Catholic, you got Protestant, you got, there's a Jewish rabbi who's very well known that's on, his nickname is Sully. He's on the committee. So it's going to be, I think, fascinating to be together and to have these discussions and to have these great witnesses that we will end up having before us. And then even seeing how people kind of move off of those witnesses, the questions they have, the things we learn. I think it's going to be great. I think it'll be great and incredibly educational to watch. We're hopeful. We think that it'll be that all these will be carried, nationwide, whether that's the White House or there's certainly going to be media there. So it's just a great opportunity really to educate people about something that most people don't know is so crucial, but they have little information on.
That is a really interesting room full of people. I think the meetings are going to be really interesting to sit in on. Looking forward to hearing your stories from those. We watched the ceremony here at our headquarters in Plano, Texas. I want you to know how proud we were of you. All of us sitting around, we just kept looking at each other like it's just surreal to see you in the midst of this. And we're just proud of you for being there. You certainly have earned a place on this commission. This is a significant honor for you personally. I mean, it's a resume item. It's also significant for First Liberty because we're the only organization of our type on this commission.
Yeah, I do. The way I look at it when I got that is, number one, it was just the Lord. I mean, I didn't do anything to, fight for this position. And I felt like the Lord it really was an accumulation of all the stuff that First Liberty has done. And that is all the staff at First Liberty. That's every supporter at First Liberty. I mean, I really see it as all the work we've done. And a lot of the emails and texts I'm getting wishing me congratulations are all saying things that send off the message to me that, you know what, you guys have earned this because of all the stuff you've done over the last, 30 odd years. And that to me is a statement about First Liberty. And it's the recent victories at the Supreme Court, but it's also stuff from 10 years ago and 15 years ago and 20 years ago. It's that we've just been faithful here. And there's so many of our supporters that have been faithful with us from the very beginning. And so I just consider this really everybody sitting up there. And so that's why I ask everybody to pray. We need wisdom. I want to make sure and accomplish what God has for us to accomplish. And I want some great creative ideas on how to do that. We're not used to having this type of an opportunity. We have to go in the courts and win these things the hard way. But if we can educate people and we can present ideas that end up going into the president's hands and maybe even the Speaker of the House's hands, that can be things that we might even get agreement on if people really understand across both sides of the aisle that this is good for everybody, we could change the future of the country. So we want to make sure and do those things and have those creative thoughts. And we need prayer and wisdom to do that. But we're certainly excited and honored to be a part of this.
You kind of did this already, but the last question I had on my list was to ask you, how can people pray for you as you enter this phase of working on the commission? You mentioned a prayer for wisdom and also for clarity for the things you discover. Anything else specific we can be praying for?
What I always tell people when they ask about praying, I say, I used to ask people to pray for our cases, and I still would love people to pray for our cases, but I started switching after a number of years to please pray for our people.
Yeah.
Because the enemy seems to like to attack our people instead of the cases. And I would say the same thing. Here I am sick already, with some weird ailments after the Rose Garden ceremony. So pray for my health and just that, nothing would get in the way of doing exactly what the Lord wants me to do here. And really in representing not only the staff of First Liberty, but all the supporters of First Liberty, representing them well in this unique opportunity. We just want to do a good job. And so I pray, I'll take all that personal prayer I can get.
Very good. Anything else you want to share before I let you go? That's everything I was looking for.
No, it's really, it's interesting. It's fascinating. It's an honor. But I'll be honest with you, I look at this and I don't know where this is going to go yet. It's kind of a Donald Trump type thing, right?
It really is.
Get ready for, it's not going to be boring. That much. With Donald Trump, it's not going to be boring. But good for him for doing this. Nobody had done this before, and I think this is a good thing to do.
Outstanding. Kelly, thank you for making time for us. I know you're not feeling your best, but you decided to plow through, and I appreciate you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Stuart.
All right. If you want to see America's religious heritage defended, just look for the big red Give button up at the top of FirstLibertyLive.com and click on that. You can be part of this work to make real change in the real world when it comes to religious liberty for all Americans. That's what we do. It's all we do. It's our focus. If that resonates with you, we invite you to be part of it. First Liberty is fighting for what matters most.